This vlog has been a long time coming. It has been over a year. I know it's taken me a long time to sit down and actually record this vlog, but I think once you listen and hear me out through the whole thing, you'll understand why it has taken this long for me to actually sit down and do this. So all I can say is if you watch the whole video from this point on to the very end, thank you from the bottom of my undead heart. So without further ado, let me explain to you what has been going on over the last year with all of my disappearances and hiatuses and all that crazy stuff. So let me just jump right in. So about a year ago, I was taking a bipolar medication. As those of you know, I have bipolar 2 disorder. It's something that I've dealt with for the last 6 going on 7 years now. I got diagnosed and I've been looking for medications that work for me with my bipolar. I was seeing a psychiatrist at one point and she and I just didn't vibe very well. She and I just didn't click. So I went and I saw a different psychiatrist and she and I were working on new medications to try. And basically, this medication that I was on was one of the last medications on the market that I could try. I have basically tried almost every single bipolar medication on the market, except for I think like 3, other than this last one that I tried. This one was called Ziprasidone. Maybe you might know about it, maybe you don't, but it's one that I tried. And it was actually going really well for me. I think I was on it for a couple months and it was working pretty decently well, but I had noticed that I was still experiencing some bipolar swings. So around October, November, almost exactly a year ago, my psychiatrist and I decided that we were going to increase the dosage and see how I reacted to it. Spoiler alert, it did not go very well at all. Around this time, I had gotten a new job and we increased the dosage and things were going okay, but I started to notice that I was experiencing severe anxiety. And when I say severe anxiety, I'm talking getting in the car and driving something that I actually really enjoy doing was giving me anxiety. Sitting down and playing video games was giving me anxiety. If you've watched some of my other vlogs when I was talking about some other medications I was on, this might sound familiar, as this is a side effect that some medications can cause when you're on them, and this medication was no different, unfortunately. However, this medication got me so anxious that I actually had a full-on panic attack at this new job, to the point where I basically called in and told them I can't work this job. I have to quit. Thankfully, the manager there was very understanding, very nice, no judgment. She was basically awesome about it and was very understanding and just was like, hey, I'm sorry to hear that. No worries. I totally understand. It's okay. And I basically had to suffer through the holidays with this anxiety. I thought at the time that it was from the job, and there's like a lot of other things happening. We had like a Thanksgiving thing going on, and so I thought, well, maybe it's the stress of Thanksgiving and holidays, and I really thought it was all of that, to the point where I went to a hypnotherapist to see if that would help. He worked with me on addressing the anxiety, seeing if it would help. He gave me a lot of exercises. It helped a bit, but there was still this lingering anxiety over the smallest things, and I knew deep down inside this was not who I am. Like, I am not this person who's afraid of going out my front door. As those of you who've known me, I traveled to Alaska, literally driving from California through Canada to Alaska in the middle of off season to get a campground going in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. And some of the stuff I've had to do would like make anybody freak out, but like I went through it and like was kind of unfazed by it. Like, of course I was aware that it was stressful and whatever, but my point being is that I'm not the type of person that would be stressed out about going out my front door to go drive down the street to the pharmacy. It just doesn't, it's not me. It's not who I am. So this was very uncharacteristic anxiety that I was experiencing, to the point where one of my best friends, when she came over for that Thanksgiving thing, looked at me and she was like, what's wrong with you? Like, this is not who you are, you know? So even she was just like, this is abnormal for you. So because of this, I spoke to my psychiatrist and we both decided that we would taper off the medication and see if that would help. And as soon as we started tapering off the ziprasidone, I started feeling so much better. I was just convinced that it must have been the medication, and I no longer wanted to be on that medication anymore, because I had also, in retrospect, noticed that I was getting anxious, like a small amount of anxiety about doing stuff, but I had pushed through it over the last couple months, basically being like, oh, you know, like I'm a little jittery because this is like a new experience and what have you. And so I just thought it was just average anxiety and I pushed through it. But looking through the lens of, oh my God, like it's probably the medication, I realized, okay, that anxiety probably wasn't naturally coming from me. It was probably induced by the medication. So I just want to get off this medication. So we tapered off the medication. The way we were tapering off the medication was that every week we would drop the dose by a certain amount. And so we were doing that every week, dropping the dose. And then we got to about the last week where we were going to basically completely finish off the ziprasidone. I was just going to be completely off of it. I started noticing like, oh, I'm getting like a little bit of headaches when I wake up and a little nauseous when I first wake up. And my psychiatrist was like, well, if you want, we can kind of slow it down a little bit more just to see how you do tapering it off like in smaller amounts from this point on. But I figured, well, it's not that bad right now. And I just really want to get off the medication since we're so close to just being done. Let's just rip it off like a band-aid. That was a really bad decision on my part. And to this day, I am still very bitter about my psychiatrist not properly educating me on this particular avenue of action. And a lot of people might try to like blame me for it, that maybe I should have asked questions or what have you, but I honestly did not know this, and I should have been educated on this from the get-go about ziprasidone. Ziprasidone is an antipsychotic medication, which apparently your brain chemistry completely changes on ziprasidone to the point where it actually relies on the ingestion of ziprasidone in order to function properly. And I had been on ziprasidone long enough that my brain basically required this medication to function normally. I'm sure you can put together where I'm going with this, but basically when I completely took out ziprasidone from my routine and stopped taking it, I went into withdrawals of this medication. I'm talking like full on. I was sick. Every single day I woke up, I was nauseous to the point where I was basically bedridden for weeks, almost months. I had headaches throughout the day. I was fatigued. I even had like cold. Like I was cold for the first part of it. Like I was getting like shivers because I was like so cold because I was unregulating. And I had no idea that this was going to be a side effect of completely basically cold turkeying my antipsychotic. I had no idea. that this is how antipsychotics work, because I wasn't told. And if I had been given that information, I think I would have handled it differently. I would have gone a different route. I'm still very bitter about that, if you couldn't tell. So I basically suffered for weeks into months. It took so long for me to get better. My sister basically helped me get through some of the worst of it. She and I sat, like, I was in her room. She has like a nice TV setup, and I was just lying in her bed with a blanket, just mindlessly watching YouTube, because I just couldn't do anything else. It was that bad. It was bad. It was so bad. During this time, my dog had developed a little bit of a limp. We thought maybe he had hurt his paw, or like did something with like one of his muscles. Something was going on while I was going through this. And my family took him to the vet to see what was going on. And the vet pretty much was like, that's cancer. That's bone cancer, actually. And we didn't believe it at first. We got a second opinion, and the second opinion said the same thing, like, I'm really sorry, that is bone cancer. These are your options. So when we got the news that he had bone cancer, and there were a few things that we had to decide on what to do, we basically had to sit down as a family to decide, what are we going to do about this situation? And ultimately, we decided that we were going to try and treat the bone cancer. And I believe it was basically treatments every week of radiation. Apparently it's like slightly different than chemotherapy, what they do for pets. And he basically had to go in every week or every other week, depending on how he was feeling or how he was doing with the treatments. And we basically did that just to see if we could fight off the cancer. And a few weeks went by, and on his last treatment, they did a scan to see if the treatments had been successful. And unfortunately, the scans came back that showed that he had tumors in his lungs. Therefore, basically, the cancer had spread to his lungs, and the treatments were not successful. If anything, they had slowed down the progression of the cancer. Basically, it just didn't work. And so we all kind of had to come to terms with the fact that we just had to see how it would progress now that he was no longer on treatments. And if it got to a point where he was just in pain or in a state of misery, we would have to consider putting him down. A few weeks went by, and he was doing okay. I think I started getting back into streaming around this time, and we noticed that his tail started drooping. So usually, you know, his tail is like wagging all the time, and like one day it was just like limp. And we took him to the vet. The vet basically was like, oh, he has what's called swimmer's tail. Here's some physical therapy exercises you can do on him and have him do to see if it will help with the tail. But his condition didn't improve. It actually got a little worse. So we took him back to the vet, and the vet basically was like, well, I don't think it's swimmer's tail. Let's do a scan and see what's going on. And the results came back that there was some like inflammation around his spine, like on the back of his hindquarters. Basically, there was some inflammation there, and they basically said it could be slip discs in his back, or it could be tumors, like cancer in his spine area there. And you know, with the slip discs, he'll get better eventually. If it's cancer, he'll just get worse over time. And this was a really hard time for me because we were trying to take care of my dog, but I was also going through my own personal stuff with like relationship stuff. I was just like, my god, this is a lot happening at once. And I was also trying to get back into stream because it's something that I really enjoy, but it's also like I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. It was a lot. We basically were like watching my dog to see, you know, if he gets better, if he gets worse. And I want to say like a week later, he got really bad. By the end of it, he couldn't use his back legs. He couldn't use the bathroom by himself. It was really rough. It was a really hard time for me. When he got to that point, it was basically time to let him go. I think those of you who have had animals that you have grown very close to know what it's like to lose a pet that you have really connected with. And it was very hard for me. It's still very hard for me to process what happened because it came on very suddenly. Like, we knew, but to see him just get bad so quick was just very, it was hard. It's very hard. When that happened and we said our goodbyes and he passed away, I took some time for myself. I went traveling. I met up with some friends. I went to TwitchCon basically without going to TwitchCon. And I just disconnected and changed my scenery for a little bit. And it really helped. I really needed this break. This last year has been one of the hardest years I've ever had to go through. If you've been a part of my channel and you've seen some of the stuff I've had to go through, the trials that I've overcome, for me to say that, I think speaks volumes. And I hope that it helps explain where I have been over the last year and what I have had to go through over the last year. So if you've been wondering what's been going on with VT for the last year, you have your answer now. I know a lot of people were asking me when I would be back to streaming, when I'd be back to making content. I know some people were telling me and messaging me saying they missed my streams, they missed hearing from me or seeing my updates. I know a lot of people also left my community because I was pretty quiet about everything going on. I don't blame anybody because I was very quiet about what was going on. I didn't say anything to anybody except my impalers. My impalers were the only ones who knew any of this was happening because I wasn't ready to openly talk about it at all to anybody else. The only reason I feel comfortable enough to talk about this now is because I'm very happy now. And I know that's like really contrasted to what we were just talking about to now, but I was depressed for the last year. It was really bad to the point where I basically slept all day. I didn't eat because I just didn't feel like eating. I didn't feel like myself. A lot of times I would stream for many hours at a time, just because I had nothing else going on. And I'm really happy to say that things are much better now. And I'm very excited for my future. I have a lot of things on the horizon that I'm actually looking forward to. Life does not feel hopeless anymore. I know I'm not medicated for my bipolar currently, but I honestly feel a lot better being off medications than while I was on them. They were constantly making me sick. They were changing who I was fundamentally, I did not feel like I was myself on these medications, which is the point of the medications. They're supposed to, normalize you. And I just didn't like who I was on these medications. But ultimately, it was because of all the side effects. I just can't put myself through it anymore. Like I said, I've tried almost every single bipolar medication on the market except for maybe 3, and none of them worked for me. They all caused me to have some sort of side effects. I think some of them even almost killed me in some instances. I didn't like who I was on those medications. So I'm not being medicated for my bipolar. I am going to go about it in a more holistic way. I still strongly suggest, if you do suffer from bipolar disorder, that you try to find a medication that works for you. I still think it's worth it. I've spoken to a lot of people who have bipolar who are very glad that they got medication and it works for them. I'm very happy for them, and I still push for that for anybody. Try doing that route first, and if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. It didn't work for me, and we can just be on this journey together. But in general, I'm feeling so much better. I'm becoming a better person for myself, for my friends, for my loved ones, and even for my community. I'm so happy. I'm seeing an amazing person right now that I'm very excited to bring into my life, as well as my content in the future. So I'm very excited about that. And after some thought, speaking of content, I really want my channel to be a little different than it has been over the last 6 years since I've had it. I want to get back into the main reason I got into content creation in the first place, which was ultimately to help people. I want to help improve people's lives. I want to advocate mental health awareness as well as general health awareness. It's something that I'm really passionate about, and I would still really like to go in that direction and help people live a life that is more positive and more aligned with good. My Twitch channel will still mainly be gaming focused. 5MRP is still going to be the main staple of my channel. I'll still be streaming a lot of that, but I also want to include more variety into my streams as well. More community driven games that everyone can feel comfortable jumping into and joining. I think we have the power to create an amazing community. I want to do more YouTube. A lot of my YouTube channel, I'm hoping, will be more health focused. I want it to be focused more on my day-to-day life, as well as vlogging, and like I said, more health stuff, just talking about things that I'm interested in, the supernatural, that sort of thing, my journey in general. I really want my YouTube channel to be based on that. TikTok and Instagram, I also want it to be based on those things as well. They're going to be more snippets into what I'm doing in my day-to-day life. So TikTok and Instagram, I really want it to be snapshots into my life, into my everyday routine, inspiring people to improve their lives as well, while also still balancing some gaming clips in there as well, because why not? That's still part of who I am. So if you're really not into the gaming aspect of Twitch, you can always, check out my YouTube, and there might be some gaming clips here and there, some highlights, whatever, but I really wanted to give you something different than what you see on Twitch. I want each social media platform to provide a different look into who I am as a person. I think a lot of people will see my streams, hang out in my streams, and then they think they know who I am. A lot of people don't understand who I am as a person outside of Twitch, and when they see it, they get kind of surprised that this is who I am and these are the beliefs that I hold. And I'm tired of doing that. I'm tired of pretending to be just a 2D person on your screen that just plays video games and has no depth to them. Because I am looking for more people who are like me as I'm going through this journey and surrounding myself with people who are at the same vibration that I am planning to put myself at. Some people might not resonate with this. You might be like, I just care about video games and that's all I care about, and I just want to watch you play video games and that's all I want. This is for the people who resonate with what I am saying and vibrate at the same frequency that I am planning to vibrate at. And if this speaks to you, then you are definitely going to be part of what I am working towards. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't want people to feel objectified in any way. My point is like, I want there to be more substance in my content. I want there to be more depth in my content. I don't want it to be surface level. I hope that makes sense. And with that in mind, I highly encourage you to come join us in our Discord server. I am planning to do more events with the community like I used to, doing fun stuff like we used to do, but I really want to connect with the people in my community who genuinely want to be here and genuinely believe in the message that I am putting out, which is that content creation should be a tool to help improve people's lives. It should be something that helps people get connected with other people who also want the same thing. We should be trying to improve the lives of others and of the world in general, instead of putting people down or getting some sort of like crazy reaction out of people by doing outlandish things that make absolutely no sense. I know this will resonate with some people, and you are my people if it resonates with you. So if you still support me after all this, thank you. I look forward to connecting with you and getting to know you more and just helping you get through some of the hardships of life. Trust me, I know what it's like. I've been through a lot of shit. I think we all have. And we should be uplifting each other instead of making each other feel inferior. So if that resonates with you, again, please connect with us in my Discord. Links are down below in the description. If you're projecting negative energy towards me in any way, I send that right back to you. Hope you enjoy that. Much love to my friends and my family, my loved ones who basically helped me get through the nightmare year that I've been through. Thank you to my amazing community as well, because without you all, I literally would not be here. You are the reason that I make content. I'm honored to be here to help you in the ways that I can. I am excited to help you see the greatness in you that you have. And in case you haven't heard it yet today, you are awesome and capable of more than you even realize. Much love, my dears, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you. Like and subscribe. It's free.